Hello, everyone, and welcome to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy presented by Spellhold Games. My name is Eugene. As always, I will be your commentator for this, the first round of March 1st. And it was kind of cool. We had a huge turnout, 24 players for this Tuesday night. We were very excited to have almost a full house. Anyways, let's get into the round. This is actually one of our first mirror matches, I think. Maybe we had a Blue-Red Delver mirror match. But this is Michael on lands versus Eric on lands. And this is going to be quite the grind fest. Let's get into it. So we start off the game with an exploration from Eric. Eric playing the new Boseiju into an Urza Saga. We see a Wasteland come from Michael, getting rid of that Urza Saga. Playing an Expedition map when he played off of the Mox Diamond, discarding a Rashadan port. This kind of match is actually going to be extremely grindy as each of the players is trying to outvalue the other player with these different lands. And Urza Saga is a really good way to do that. We see Michael play a second Urza Saga. Urza Saga, of course, tapping for mana when it first comes into play. But after that, the second and third, what are those called? Lore, yeah, the stages? They get to make the constructs, the XX construct for how many artifacts you have in play. We see Michael really controlling those Urza Saga before they can get out of control. A second Wasteland for his turn, and then passes it right back. These players usually limited by land drops, but with exploration in play, allowing the player to play an additional land each turn. There is a lot of value to be had where Michael is currently only being able to take about one action per turn. Eric is getting several actions per turn, at least two, but we saw just the Maze of Ith go down. That's right. The player, Eric, he apparently had two blank cards in his deck that were the crop rotations that he had off camera. That was decided before the match started. So he had them in the deck and then used the real one that he just pulled. So we see a crop rotation getting a blast zone and then a wasteland for turn, blowing up the Urza Saga on Michael's side. We see a crack for the Expedition map. The Expedition map allowing Michael to go and get any land from his deck. He's going to choose the new Boseiju. Oh, but we are going to see a Blast Zone here from Eric. This is going to have one counter on it, so he can destroy all the non-land permanents with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone, which is currently 1 if he pays 3 mana into it and sacrifices it. Crop rotation, as an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put that onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. That was getting the Urza Saga, I believe, on Michael's side. And then we see Boseiju Who Endures. So this can come down and just tap. If it doesn't, you can pay 2 to discard it and destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. A pretty good card. Printed in Kamigawa, the new Kamigawa set. So blowing up that Urza Saga on Michael's side. He does get one construct out of it. That's what the Venusaur is representing. So he's in for 1 damage there. We see Thespian Stage come down on Michael's side. This land, you can pay 2 mana and tap it, and becomes a copy of any target land in play, except it also has the copy the ability. We see another crop rotation sacrificing the Boseiju on Eric's side. And he's kind of thinking about what he's going to get here. And he decides to go for a Rashadan port. Michael hasn't gotten to make a ton of land drops, and all the land drops that he has made have been either destroyed or sacrificed in some manner, maybe discarded for the Mox Diamond. There's just been a ton of land control in this mirror here. So he gets the Rashadan port so that he can tap down Michael's Thespian Stage. We see A Wooded Foothills and another Mox Diamond coming down, so discarding a basic forest for that. Grove of the Burn Willows coming down on Eric's side. This land can tap for colored mana, but each time you do tap it, it makes your opponent, or it makes each opponent gain 1 life. This can pair really well with Punishing Fire, the 2 damage, 2 mana, deal 2 damage to any target instant. And if it's in the graveyard, you can pay 1 red mana if your opponent gain life this turn to return it to your hand. So Grove and Punishing Fire working together is a very slow but very effective grinding win condition. We see a Taiga from the Wooded Foothills come down and a Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature unless you pay 1. It doesn't actually say that. I should get the correct one. It says, all creatures gain at the beginning of your upkeep, destroy this creature unless you pay 1. You can get around the... indestructible creatures do not have to pay that upkeep cost, as they will try to be destroyed and cannot. So we see Venusaur attacking into an Endurance down from Michael. So Endurance, a 3/4 at flash speed. He did put all of Michael's graveyard under the bottom of his library, so he doesn't have access to things like Life from the Loam. To pull all of those Urza Sagas back, he's going to have to either crop rotate it or things of that nature. Michael forgets to pay for Endurance from the Tabernacle trigger, so he sends that to the grave. The Thespian stage is copying the Rishadan port. He did make a little note of it. Unfortunately, with the pen, it just doesn't show up on camera. But yeah, we have a Rishadan port on that Thespian stage, and then that needle is naming Wasteland. A lot of wastelanding in this game, so wanted to prevent losing any more of his lands. Alright, so the turn is on Eric's side, trying to decide with these lands that he's got in play what the best play is. I think he's kind of shuffling the cards pretty quick there. He's going to pass it back to Michael. Michael now has a Dark Depths in play. I think I missed that for his land drop. There's Pithing Needle, naming a card so that it can't activate the abilities unless they're mana abilities. And Dark Depths is a part of the combo. So Thespian Stage, copy Dark Depths is going to have a whole bunch of rules interactions. The Dark Depths, since it is a legendary card, will see itself, and since the legendary rule states that you can't have 2 of the same legend in play at the same time, you get rid of the Dark Depths that has the 10 counters on it. The Thespian Stage with 0 counters on it then is going to have the rule clause say, when Dark Depths has no ice counters on it, sacrifice it if you do create Merit Lage, which is a 20/20 flying indestructible avatar creature token. So no interactions there, as Wasteland is Pithing Needled at this point. So Michael has the 20/20 Flying Indestructible, and Eric passes it back. It's got 3 Rishadan ports, Grove of the Burn Willows, Green Forest, and Blast Zone. Tries to attack with the 20/20. Is going to cast... Eric is going to cast Endurance, and he's going to put Michael's graveyard on the bottom of his library, and because Endurance has reach, it can block the flying 20/20. And so he says, chump here, this saves me for a turn, and I'll go to my turn. 2 mana, tap down, Taiga. Michael has access to 2 colored mana via his Mox Diamonds and Grove of the Burn Willows. We're going to see Michael cast Crop Rotation, getting rid of his Tabernacle and grabbing Urza Saga. I believe this is at the end of Michael's turn. We see a Crop Rotation in Eric's hand, and maybe another Endurance and what looks like a Punishing Fire. So Endurance again, same play as last turn. Merit Lage attacks into Endurance. Endurance takes that 20 damage. As Merit Lage does not have Trample, the damage will be prevented by the single block. So as long as you got a flying creature, you're good to go with Merit Lage. Michael makes a construct from the Urza Saga token, and then Eric did not draw an answer for Merit Lage and passed and said, we just go to game 2 here. So here we are in game 2. Rishadenport on Eric's side. Urza Saga on Michael's side, drawing a Wasteland, destroying that Urza Saga before it can get out of control. Michael says, no problem, here's a second Urza Saga. And Eric says, you know what, that's cool, I've got an Urza Saga. Jeez. Michael plays Wasteland, blows up Eric's Urza Saga. So we have one Urza Saga in play out of the 3 that have been played this game. It is on 2 counters, so it cannot make a construct. There's no extra lands. So instead of doing any of that, Michael is going to float 1 mana as the lore counter is going to be put onto the Urza Saga during main phase. Michael going and getting a 0 or 1 converted mana cost artifact and putting it into play. He has chosen Mox Diamond here. When Mox Diamond enters the battlefield, he still does have to discard a land or else sacrifice Mox Diamond. He's going to discard a Rishadenport. And is going to cast Exploration for 1 green mana. Still has 1 basic mana floating. 2 lands are going to come down, Wasteland and Urza Saga. And that mana is just going to fizzle, but that's totally fine by Michael's standpoint. Looks like a Thespian Stage comes down on Eric's side, and then he just passes back. Taps down the Urza Saga in upkeep before it got the second lore counter, so he cannot make a construct in response. And it looks like Michael passes without a land drop. Very interesting. Bojuka Bog, going to come down on Eric's side. That's going to exile all of Michael's graveyard. And then, so with a Rishadenport in play, we see Eric trying to tap down the Rishadenport, but what Michael does instead is he casts Crop Rotation, floats the mana, and going to get the ability off of the Urza Saga, but he's also going to get a land with the Crop Rotation as he paid for Urza Saga with the Crop Rotation sacrifice a land trigger. I guess it's not a trigger, it's a cost. Sacrificing is a part of the cost. Goes and gets Expedition Map and a basic forest. Doesn't have a land drop for turn, so passes. Eric doesn't have a land drop either, so he passes straight back. And now he's deciding during Michael's upkeep if he's going to tap a land with the Rishadenport and Thespian Stage. He decides, yes, I am. But in response, Michael kind of saw that coming and decided to crack the Expedition Map to get a Wasteland. So Wasteland to hand, and now we go to draw step. It's going to Wasteland the Thespian Stage. Interesting. I guess it's because Rishadenport, as much as it is interacting, it is not interacting at the same time due to the effect of just tapping things down but not playing anything. It's just pushing the game out further and further. So we see Eric go for a Force of Vigor here, pitching an Exploration instead of actually casting it. This is going to blow up Mox Diamond and Urza Saga, an artifact and an enchantment. I think that Exploration should be in exile, but maybe Nerves was getting to him, and it just accidentally went to the graveyard pile. This is definitely going to set Michael back. He was just kind of getting on his feet, but blowing up the mana source, his colored mana source, and his Urza Saga was definitely a step back. Looks like now there's 2 Rishadenports in play on Eric's side and a Thespian Stage. So still not really doing anything, but definitely tapping down all of Michael's mana. Has an Exploration in play, but I guess he's just got a grip of things that aren't lands. So we see Rishadenport come down here from Michael and pass. Definitely controlling the board here, but with no interaction as far as like a Construct token or Kahira from the companion. I'm not even entirely certain if Eric is playing Kahira. We know that Michael is on the Kahira list, but there's just, or like a flashed in Endurance would at least put a clock on Michael. As far as this is concerned, it's just kind of continuing the game, not really changing the board state. Although we do see An Elvish Reclaimer come down here. This is definitely a beater. So it gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more lands in the grave, which there definitely is for Eric. So it's actually a 3/4. And then he can pay 2 mana to do a mini crop rotation. Sacrifice a land, the land comes into the battlefield tapped. So it has the same ability, but you get it into play untapped with crop rotation. You still have to sacrifice and everything, but it comes into play tapped with the Elvish Reclaimer. We see a crop rotation on Michael's side. I forget which land he sacrificed, but he went and got the Taiga. Ooh, here we go. This is going to be Life from the Loam. So Life from the Loam, a very strong card in the mirror match here. Get to pull up to 3 target lands from your graveyard to your hand, and then you can dredge it back to your hand, a replacement effect. Instead of drawing a card, any draw, it doesn't have to be the draw during the beginning of your turn or anything. You can instead put 3 cards from the top of your graveyard into your, or 3 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard, and then you return the spell to your hand. So we see a Wasteland blowing up Blast Zone here from Michael's side. Michael blew up the Blast Zone on Eric's side. And then plays an Urza Saga. Passes it back to Michael. So he's got 2 sets of Rishadan Ports, Bajuka Bog, Grove of the Burn Willows, and a Thespian Stage. So 2 mana. 2 mana is going to get, not quite sure, his own Life from the Loam. So with both players firing Life from the Loam, this could get out of control. But Michael has the response. He's going to exile a Life from the Loam from his hand and evoke Cast Endurance to put Eric's graveyard on the bottom of his library. So Life from the Loam not being able to target anything, or rather it did have declared targets, but now that they are no longer there, it doesn't do anything, and the spell kind of fizzles and just goes to the graveyard. Although he can recur it with the dredge next turn if he so chooses. I think this Endurance should be in the graveyard, but I think they're going to fix that before the end of Eric's turn. There it is. So Rishadan Port, Bajuka Bog on Eric's side. Not super great mana creation. So he passes it back, decides to, if he's going to Rishadan Port this turn. That Urza Saga on 1 trigger right now, or 1 lore counter, so Michael will be able to create a construct this turn if he so chooses. All right, so we went to draw step, the 3 cards to the grave, and Life from the Loam back to his hand. Life from the Loam being cast again. Going to choose Thespian Stage, Wasteland, Basic Forest here. So this is where the real mirror breaker, I think, is kind of being shown here. Now that Michael has been able to recur Life from the Loam twice, playing that Wasteland and having the exploration in play, so he gets the 2 land drops. He basically gets to free Wasteland Eric's side of the field every single turn. So we're going to see an activation of the Elvish Reclaimer. That ability costs 2 colorless mana, which is nice. Doesn't have to cost any colored, like green mana or anything. Once that ability was activated, Michael then activated his Wasteland, which was a very good play to wait for, because if he tried to Wasteland in response, then Eric could have just sacrificed the land that he was targeting with Wasteland and not gotten any value out of that. We see during upkeep, before the draw step, Michael did have a second Endurance, which put the Life from the Loam on the bottom of Eric's graveyard, so he no longer has access to his own Life from the Loam, putting him pretty far behind. And so now he is deciding what's going to happen here. Basic Forest, Grove of the Burn Willows, 2 Rishadan Ports. Let's see here. Michael does have up 2 mana plus Urza Saga, so he does have access to that construct if he wants, but I don't know what else is in his hand. That's only colorless mana that he can produce right now, so that's probably going to be his best choice at the end of Michael's turn here, once he kind of decides. You know, he's a little bit behind. It's going to be 1 green mana. He's thinking about tapping. Nope. Decided against it. Does go for it. Looks like that's going to be a crop rotation. Crop rotation getting any land out of his deck. Casting Wasteland, blowing up the Urza Saga, although it doesn't look like... It looks like he forgot to pay the additional cost from the crop rotation, as he should have sacrificed a land. Well, we'll chalk that up to accidental plays. Looks like there was a Punishing Fire on the Construct that was created, and then attacks for 1 with the Elvish Reclaimer, as it has shrunk back down. There only being 1 land in the graveyard right now. So Michael doing his thing, loaming back and getting Wasteland and a couple other things. I think he got a Dark Depths. And we see Urza Saga going off on 3. Getting a Mox Diamond. That's going to be pretty easy to pay for, as I think Michael has full grip of lands at this point. Discarding a basic forest. And casting Life from the Loam. So Urza Saga, Wasteland. And we see Wasteland coming back down again. And a Dark Depths. So Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, all set up for the Merit Lage token. He's not gonna go for it. Decided against it. Does have that Wasteland available. It looks like these players are now on turns. So if a game goes so long, games are only 50 minutes long for both players together. And if we reach the end of that timing, then the players proceed to almost like a sudden death situation called turns. And during turns, whoever was the active player is turn 0, and then it goes back and forth, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It allows both players to have basically 3 turns of doing actions until the game is declared a draw. Or rather, that current game ends as a draw. And then if one of the players had won the first game, then that player is considered the winner of that round. So we are currently on turn 1 right now. We see a crop rotation, sacrificing Rashadan Port. That's going to get it's going to get the Thespian Stage. Now this is an interesting interaction. So because Michael has a Dark Depths, Eric was able to crop rotate for his own Thespian Stage and copy the Dark Depths, and that Thespian Stage that he owns no longer has the counters, so he gets a Merit Lage for his troubles. And we see... Oh, this was all predicated on the fact that Michael had tried to Wasteland Eric's Wasteland, not allowing him to interrupt the Merit Lage combo. So, a lot of stuff happening. You know what? I'm going to pause it really quick here. So what happened was Michael targeted Eric's Wasteland with Wasteland. This forced Michael to respond by casting the crop rotation, which got him Thespian Stage, to copy Michael's Dark Depths, which got him his own Merit Lage, and then he activated his Wasteland that was already targeted by Michael's Wasteland to blow up Michael's Taiga, which was one of his colored mana sources, and in response to that, Michael then activated his Merit Lage combo, which is why like 14 land cards went to the graveyard this turn. It's a little bit of hyperbole. I think it was about 6 land cards. All right. So 2 Merit Lages in play right now, 1 on each side. I believe this is turn 2 of turns. We see Life from the Loam dredged. The thing about 2 20/20 flyers that are indestructible is whoever attacks first loses the game because you can just block their 20/20 with your 20/20, and since it's indestructible, then they don't have a blocker for your 20/20. So both of these Merit Lages just kind of looking at each other. We see the Life from the Loam cast. Going to get Bojuka Bog, exiling all of Eric's grave and getting the Wasteland back once again. This is turn 4. So this is Eric's last turn of getting to go through his whole turn cycle and try and close out the game. If he cannot kill Michael this turn, then he is going to draw. So he passes back, and this is kind of just the end of the game. All Michael has to do is go through his turn, not do anything, and pass, and that will end the game, which will declare Michael the winner for the round because he won their first game. And that is going to do it. That was interesting getting to go through turns and everything. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you soon for round 2. Please like and subscribe the video if you haven't already. We really appreciate the huge turnout. We're actually already above 75 subscribers, or I think we're at 75 subscribers, so I'm hoping to get to 100 maybe by the end of March. See you guys for round 2.